Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Curious Blend. I'm your host, Keller Davis, the owner of Createscape Coworking here in Austin, Texas. And this is a show where we talk to curious minds, creative souls, interesting people here at Createscape. And I'm really happy today to be joined by our longtime member, Oliver. Thank you for being here, Oliver.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I have some fun questions for you. The one that I was asked to ask you right off the bat was, who do you think you are?
Who do I think I am? I have no idea. I also have no idea if that's like a rhetorical question or if it's a like,
It's more
how
of a
dare
rhetorical
you?
question, but
Who
I
do
didn't know
think
if you would
are?
have some kind of answer to it.
Yeah, no, I'm just Oliver, I guess. I
Yeah,
don't really think of myself in any other way.
I like that. How does it feel to be one of the most popular members at Createscape?
Oof, I don't know if that's true either. I'm certainly maybe one of the older members now.
Yeah. By which you mean you've been here longer than
Yes, yeah. Not in like longest tenure, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
And I just think Createscape's such a great environment. I wouldn't say it's me. I think it's the people here and the staff here. That means you can simultaneously get work done if you want to, or wreak havoc if you want to, and have fun with those around you. So it's a really good mixture. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's what we want. So
Yeah. And everybody who's worked here and all the other members just make it a great environment, really, a really friendly environment.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
So
what attracted you to co-working in the first place?
oof. So when I moved to Austin, I was looking for somewhere to work out of because working out of where I was living wasn't really feasible at the time.
Yeah.
And I'd done some co-working like historically, but I just realized that overall I work best outside of where I live. And so that led me to explore Austin's co-working situation. And I went to a number of different places, and Createscape felt like the best fit. You know, some places were very like serious, which is good for me half the time. And then other places was more like co-working / art studio or some variation thereof. And again, didn't really fit with my, I guess, just me in general. I am like maybe 50% of the time serious and then 50% of the time not very serious. And so Createscape allowed that to happen back when I joined, which might have been like 2020, 2021.
Yeah, it was a few years ago. So
yeah.
Have you always kind of seen yourself as like being really good at being social?
No, I don't even think I am really good at being social. Like I've never thought about myself as being like a social butterfly. I've like career-wise, I've spent a lot of time engaging with people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I normally feel comfortable in it. But then on the flip side, I also like a lot of the activities I do, you tend to spend a lot of time with just one person or just doing it by yourself. And so I don't know how often I've found this or found other people feel this, but if I'm in the right energy, I'm equally as like happy being in a huge group. And then if I'm feeling something different, I'm very happy to be by myself.
Yeah.
A lot of people I know are either one or the other, but I definitely float between those two.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit I don't want to say by necessity, but just like a lot of the activities, like I do a lot of climbing. And if you do like a lot of some of the more adventurous climbing, you will spend hours and hours and hours with just one other person.
Yeah.
And you often don't see that other person very often. So like if you're leading a multi-pitch, you see each other once every hour for like 10 minutes as you change positions at the belay. Then they take off. And then you're just back to being by yourself for the next 30 or 40 minutes. And it's
Do you mean like at a climbing gym or
just be outside
or outside? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like of the varieties of climbing, you've got gym climbing, which tends to be bouldering or like route climbing.
Okay.
And then when you go outside, you've got bouldering and you've got route climbing. Then you have like much bigger walls. And so I think the longest I've spent on a wall has been over 13 hours.
Wow.
And we climbed something over 2,000 feet in that time.
Oh my gosh.
And so like that's actually it is a team sport because you're tackling it with somebody else, but it's also very kind of individualistic.
Yeah.
It is, your partner's equally as tired as you are. So when you're actually doing the physical climbing, it's just you. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I've done bouldering before, but and I've seen people at the Greenbelt like climbing, the
Yeah,
walls there,
the
which
routes.
does sound like they're much shorter than what you're referring to. But
Yeah. A lot of the climbing around Texas or like around Austin tend to be pretty short stuff. Like route climbing can get up to, I mean, it varies, but like 30 or 40 meters is not unusual in some places.
right.
And then multi-pitch climbing will go beyond that, depending on what you're looking for.
How did you get involved with Toastmasters originally? Like, what drew you to that?
So I've always known about Toast, not always, but for like many, many years, I've known about Toastmasters.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think of a way to, I guess, explore getting better at like public speaking and maybe doing some form of podcasts like everybody explores at some point. And as I went through the paces, increasingly I was running across podcasters who said they got their start in Toastmasters. And I'd known about it for years, I'd never really engaged with it because I wasn't sure what it was or how it would help. So I felt comfortable to a degree speaking in front of people. But yeah, repeated repeated like instances of people referencing Toastmasters as their jumping off point made me explore a few clubs. So I went to a few clubs around Austin, and then ultimately landed at Austin Toastmasters because I do think it is an excellent environment for everyone to get better at public speaking, whether it's you just want to become comfortable speaking in front of a crowd or you want to really hone that skill set and maybe progress towards like being a great public speaker and orator.
Yeah.
Public speaking is still, I think, the number one phobia of people. And it's a great environment just to get over that and have good feedback about what people think of how your speech was and become familiar with that.
Do you have to be a member to go, or can like anyone just show up?
So anyone can come and attend a meeting, but to participate, you have to be a member.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So if you were curious, you should come by on a Tuesday and you can come and see some of our great speakers and how the club works and how the club operates and get a good sense of what's happening.
Yeah.
As a whole, Toastmasters is an international organization. So there's clubs all over the world. There's clubs all over Austin, and we're just one club. Obviously, it's the club I chose to become a member of, and I think there's something very special about Austin Toastmasters. But you can check out any one of the clubs, and yeah, I think you'll get a very similar experience. But if you want to come check out our club, yeah, there's some extremely good speakers in there, and you get to watch basically an art form being refined again and again and again. And then we have some beginner speakers, and you get to watch that journey from the get-go when you go up there and do your very first speech in front of like 50, 60 people. And then you can see them do it again a month later and then again a month later. And you can see how that refining process gets done. It's really interesting to watch.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. Toastmasters is definitely something that I've been wanting to explore for a long time. My dad's pushed me for it.
Really?
And because he used to do it in the Dallas area, and yeah, there's just a lot that I feel like I could get out of that. So
What stopped you from going through that process and exploring the club more
I
deeply?
think just time, like it's something that I want to prioritize a little bit more in my schedule so that I can show up and be able to do it. I think if at the moment, if I was to show up on a Tuesday, I wouldn't have my schedule carved out enough where I could really commit to going back week after week, but I'd like to change that. And
Yeah. Like with anything, if you want to get good at it, it's about finding the consistent time at it. Which is what I struggle with too, right? There's so many things I want to do and I want to explore. And then I look at my schedule and I'm like, okay, well, I can't do everything. So
sure.
what do I want to focus on now? What is interesting, but I'm not gonna like get that much value out of doing it, even though I want to. And then like where does my passions lie, I guess, if that makes sense.
Right.
And just like one of the good things about I guess Toastmasters as a whole and like refining it this way is that I feel like I'm good at speaking on certain topics. If it's technical or if it's to do with work.
Something you already know a lot about? Or?
Yeah, I can speak. I feel like I can speak for quite a long time, right? I also hope people can understand me and they find value in what I say when you take feedback, but you never really know. But then when it comes to something like emotional or a personal experience, I'm much less comfortable and I guess refined on that front.
Yeah.
Like talking about emotional events or talking about like something that personally happened to you. I'm not used to speaking about that in a public scenario or setting. And so I'm much less comfortable in that. And that's something that I've been exploring more through Toastmasters is choosing stories or anecdotes and then refining that and realizing that actually it's okay to talk about this sort of thing, even though everyone does it. It's always different if I do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it makes a big difference when you're connecting with other people, like to open up and be vulnerable
Yeah.
when they're not necessarily expecting that out of you from the get-go.
Yeah, exactly. So it's challenged me to, I guess, broaden my horizons on that of getting outside my comfort zone in terms of public speaking.
That's awesome. It sounds like it's both rewarding to see other people going through it, but also like it is like an investment in yourself and your own abilities and skills. So.
Yeah. And you're right. It is. I find it rewarding to watch other people develop, and I find it rewarding to help, whether it's in Toastmasters or like through work or through other things, is watching people like break through barriers and become better at what they do.
Sure.
It's always been interesting to do, although I wouldn't say I was good at it. It's just something that you can watch and see and connect with. Because obviously, you or I want to break through barriers myself, so.
Yeah.
Being in an environment where that's happening consistently is very helpful.
Right. It seems like you have calls a lot, like in terms of speaking for work as well. What initially led you to like working in venture capital?
So it's kind of the current part of my career trajectory, which venture capital I think is a very interesting role, and it's kind of I work a lot with deep tech companies or frontier tech or emerging tech companies. And there's this idea of being on the cutting edge and supporting founders who are trying to build technologies that can have quite a fundamental difference in what we do and how we operate, et cetera. And it kind of led me there because in a previous role, I worked for a social enterprise. And through running the social enterprise, one of the things that I saw was the power of money can have on people accomplishing stuff like companies or charities. And I wanted to explore that a little bit more. And so I did my MBA 5 years ago now. And part of going through that was working with an accelerator and helping companies develop. And then you can really see the impact of money on that development and how you can push ideas forward through that, as well as like money alone is valuable, but then support behind the money is also pretty valuable, I would argue. And so it's like that crossover that I really enjoy working on both sides of that.
Is it just social enterprises that you work with now then, or is it?
No, now it's predominantly private companies.
Okay.
Very early stage companies. So my specialty tends to be pre-seed to investment-wise, pre-seed to seed, and then advice-wise is probably a little bit later on, pre-seed to Series A. But I've gone on and I've done investments as late as Series B. I don't know if these terms don't have any meaning to you, I'm guessing.
I don't know a ton about it. That's why, but tell me more about what that means.
So I'm trying to think of the best way of. So if you think about a company's development, it's kind of a life cycle.
Yeah.
We're very familiar with like later life cycle companies, like Apple, for example. They get a lot of money from the public through share transactions, et cetera. If you go a little bit earlier, and if we're looking at it as like a funding diagram here, money will come from like private equity companies. So before those companies are public, they get money from private equity. And as you move down that list, as the company gets younger and younger and younger, however you want to define young in this case, it could be size of the company, it could be revenue, it could be just time.
What do you mean get younger?
Like the sooner you create them.
Oh, okay.
So if you have an idea, your very first idea, you're at like the incubation stage.
Oh, okay.
You'll explore that idea. You will raise money. That'll be like a friends and family.
Yeah.
But you're not making money yet.
So it's getting closer to launch, basically.
Yeah. Okay. That's like early stage.
Yeah.
Young companies in this definition here. And then as you get older, you get all the way to the like public companies, the big companies that you see. And so I work predominantly with the early stage stuff. Before companies become, well, they get traction, but they've got traction. They might have some sales before they start really expanding. It's kind of an area which is very uncertain.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. You normally know how good a company is going to do a little bit later on when they have, like, if a company's making $10 million,
right,
you probably know how well they're going to, you know, they've got a product, you know, they've got clients, you know, what they're going to do is.
Yeah. Like a company you might see on Shark Tank is already farther along than what you're looking at?
No, not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Okay.
Because a lot of those companies on Shark Tank, they might only have 1,000 or 2,000 clients. And so Shark Tank does a lot of like CPG, like goods sold directly to people.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to think how many items do they have to sell to become profitable? And then what does profitable look like? Often for that, it's pretty big. So I think like the Shark Tank size is a good way to word where I would probably sit traditionally.
Yeah.
Before then and then to there. And then these definitions are always very loose as well, right? For a Shark Tank style company, it's very easy to produce a product and ship it, right? There's not a ton of barriers to entry there, but there are barriers. For a deep tech company, often the first 3, 4, 5 years is just trying to get the technology to work.
Right.
So you're actually paying to develop the technology, and then you can sell it later on. And so that's a different dynamic. Same with like healthcare companies. Often when you invest really early in a healthcare company, you're investing in them refining their product to a point where they could maybe sell it. While with a like computer program or like a SaaS company, you can build it and sell it instantaneously. And then it's the scaling issue that comes into play. Does that make sense? Or
Yeah.
confused to you?
No, I think that makes sense. I'm wondering if it like, is it just really strong business plans, or is it like your intuition that comes into play when you're making decisions?
It is, I wouldn't say business plans, because I think business plans they're useful, but a good business plan, you're not going to necessarily follow it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would look at it slightly differently. I think it's the founders, like really early stage, it's the founders. And it's how do they think about the problem they're solving as being a big driver to whether I think they're going to be successful. The way you evaluate that might be how well thought out is the business plan, or how well thought out is their financial projections. And other things that you'd consider is like how big is the market they're targeting. Because if you're starting a water bottle company, like you're competing with Yeti, for example, how big is that market? How crowded is that market? That's going to have a big impact on how big you can grow as a company and that sort of thing. And I should also point out there's a big distinction between companies that are like venture backable and just you wanting to start your own company. They're not the same thing. There's a lot of people who could start companies that do really well and don't require VC backing to do that. They might not get as big, but that might not be very important.
Yeah.
While VC backable companies have to get very, very big, or they have to be sold for, $100 million, $1 billion plus dollars because of the use of capital early on. So sometimes if you were a founder, the most important early decision you make is, what do you want to build? How big do you want it to be? And where do you get funding to start this project? Because if you get funding from a VC, you kind of have to get really big.
Yeah.
If you get funding from a bank, or you get funding from friends who don't really care, they just want to support you in what you do, you don't have to get as big. And so you can make different decisions and you can build a different type of company.
Right.
Does that kind of help?
Yeah. Is there a major misconception that you ever get regarding VC money?
I think there's a lot of misconceptions around VC as a whole, both in terms of what does getting the money mean and aspects around that. Like, how do you value a company early stage? Like, how do I know how much I'm worth? It's a very hard question, and there's no like rule to it per se. It's often, I guess, your value is kind of dependent on the value of other companies doing something similar.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you wanted to invest in a certain thing, like let's take water bottles again as an example. Say, oh, like I want to invest in a water bottle company, and these guys say they're worth X amount, but their competitor who's going to do the same thing says they're worth Y. Well, then the investor gets to pick which one they think is going to be, what they think the value is going to be, and they have that decision to make. And so often you see companies, there's like a baseline. One of the ways to evaluate is there's a baseline, and then you say this company's better at this, and that company's better at this, and then you kind of come up with a number out of nowhere
Yeah.
for early stage companies because
Right.
there's no revenue and it's just an idea and a team.
Yeah. It seems like it'd be difficult to determine some of that because I often think of VC companies as being like disruptors in an industry, and I know that's not always the case, but if it's I just wonder if it's like harder to look at like a comparable company.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's a really good point. Is like it can be really hard to look at comparable companies, and I guess it depends on a little bit about what you mean by like a disruptor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we look at, I'm probably going to regret this, but if you look at AI, right? AI is a disruptor, but there's really only been like how many AI disruptor companies are there? There's OpenAI, Anthropic. There's a few others.
Mm-hmm.
Google's making a play at it.
Right.
Musk is making a play at it. But there's actually hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of AI companies, and they're not all disruptors.
Yeah.
There's been a few disruptors. Everybody else is
because they were the first ones.
Partly because they were the
Probably.
first ones. They were the most successful ones.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of founders that are now trying to start AI companies,
Sure.
which won't disrupt or be the same level of disruption. Like maybe they'll disrupt in different industry to a different extent. And then that valuation though is still linked to like what all the competitors are doing. And so when you look at this, you kind of have to remove OpenAI from that equation because they were the first. So of course, they have the biggest valuation and they're unique.
Yeah.
And that uniqueness has been eliminated a little bit.
Right.
So all the other ones are less unique. I'm trying to think of a different example that might be more helpful. Diageo purchased Casamigos. Was it like 6 or 7 years ago? So the George Clooney tequila brand.
Oh, okay.
And they purchased it for something like $1 billion. 700 million was in cash or something like that, and 300 million was in stock or shares. And so there's this concept of like, wow, I can start a tequila brand, and with, let's say, I think I read somewhere that they had $36 million in sales. I can build a company that's worth $1 billion. I mean, yeah, theoretically you could do that, but I think it's Diageo. Diageo's purchase of Casamigos was like to solve a very specific problem.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They didn't have a big player in the tequila space. This tequila had grown quite quickly. They were purchasing a brand. They kind of were able to get George Clooney on board as well, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so it demanded a high price tag. Now, I would argue if you were to create another tequila brand that wasn't, Diageo doesn't need it anymore. So who's going to go out there and spend another $1 billion on a tequila brand? As far as I know, all the major drink suppliers have a tequila brand now. So that niche has been eliminated. The George Clooney like value add has been eliminated. And so the valuations change a little bit off of that. We've gone down a major rabbit hole.
No, I love that.
But that's kind of like,
that's makes me want tequila.
Yeah. Although I think mezcal is better, but that's just, I agree
with that too.
But so that's an example of a misconception that we often have around like valuing companies that I get a lot is like, how much are we worth?
Yeah.
And then I have to say, well, we can put some numbers together.
Right.
But the market decides that.
Yeah.
It's about talking to people. And then often founders would be like, oh, but look at this like outlier that was worth so much. You're like, yeah, but like that's an outlier. Look at all these other companies who are not worth that much, isn't it? And so it's kind of like a juggling act, and that's a big misconception.
So some of your job is keeping people in check a little bit on their expectations of things, or
Yeah, yeah, I think you could say that. I wouldn't say in check. I think it's
okay,
about like doing something for the first time, which a lot of these founders are. It's really complex and it's hard, and you're making decisions under uncertainty because you don't know what the future is going to hold.
right?
And then you couple that with everyone's trying to give you advice, including me, right? I'm trying to give advice, and it can be too much. And so the way I like to think about it is helping give founders the tools to like navigate all this information and help them like build a system to evaluate what they're being told and to make decisions in that. A good example is, maybe it's not a good example, but the example I use is like everyone's a hammer, right? I'm a hammer, to a degree. You're going to be a hammer. Where if we see a problem, I'm going to always approach it probably first from the first standpoint of what do the numbers look like. You might approach it differently. Like if there's a marketer in the room, they're going to be like, well, what does our marketing material look like?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're a founder and you're presented with these problems, you're going to get advice from a bunch of people, and the advice might contradict each other. I might be like, oh yeah, we need to go back to the basics. We need to see where we derive the most value. And a marketer may or may not say, we need to make sure that we are aligned on messaging. And an ops guy might be like, we need to streamline our systems. That's all great answers, right? But you can't do all of them at once. So how do you choose what to do first? How do you navigate that? And that's what my intention is to do, is to help founders do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like it'd be something that would be empowering for them. So, like ultimately, but
I hope so. I mean,
is that overly optimistic, or?
no, I think good advisors, not that I'm saying I am one, but I think in general, good advisors can make the system and the process a lot better.
Yeah.
Just having someone that you can talk to, bounce ideas off of, somebody who's simultaneously able to say, I think you're doing this wrong, consider this, but then will support you even if you choose not to like take that advice.
Right.
Like I'm giving advice, I don't know, I'm giving it because I believe it's right. There's a chance it's not right. And there's also a chance that maybe it doesn't matter too much in certain circumstances.
Yeah.
I think you might have heard the old adage is an imperfect plan executed is better than a perfect plan not executed.
Sure.
And so sometimes it doesn't matter if it's like the best way forward. It's just as long as it's a way forward.
Yeah.
Especially early on.
Yeah. I mean, people are going to do what they want to do.
That too.
But yeah, I think that being a piece of the puzzle is really helpful. So
yeah, and so that's my basic aim is to try and help founders navigate that, and also help other investors navigate it. So
yeah,
I've chosen to make investments in certain companies, and if other investors are wondering why I made that decision or what my thesis is and how does this fit, I'm more than happy to like share that information with them. And if they want to make an investment, I'll support them in doing that too.
Yeah. Where do you see Austin in terms of how it stands with like venture capital right now?
I mean, yeah, it's an interesting question. I think it depends on what you want to do. I think Austin is very good for certain sectors. But I also think it's like there's no city that's perfect for all sectors.
Mm.
And so most of the companies that I work with are not Austin based.
Okay.
Because I do a lot of deep tech stuff, and that tends to be out of San Francisco, out of Los Angeles. There's some companies in Denver.
Yeah. Are tech companies moving to Austin as fast as they were a few years ago, or is it hard to tell?
It's hard to tell, again, because I'm not as embedded in the Austin scene as maybe I should be. I think there are companies that are moving here, but Austin is really good for like energy because of the ecosystem that Texas has.
Mm-hmm.
Austin's good for, and I've seen a lot of like CPG and some very strong SaaS companies coming out of here. More and more, I'm seeing space companies coming out of Austin and Houston area, which has been both fueled by the access to NASA and Musk moving SpaceX here and that sort of thing. So I think it's a growing ecosystem. I don't know how much the reports are true or not true that I've read. And I don't know if you've read about how Austin's maybe not as up and coming as it used to be,
Hmm.
but it's still a pretty major player in the US.
Yeah.
Right.
It seems like it.
Yeah. And like you always hear about how great the Austin ecosystem is. And it certainly is very good. But, it's no San Francisco.
Yeah.
Even though people have been saying San Francisco is going to die, they've been saying that for 30 years. San Francisco is dead. It might be dead, but it's still doing pretty well on the investment front, and then the competitors are New York, very, very good. Boston, very, very good. Los Angeles, very, very good.
Yeah.
Chicago, big metropolitan areas tend to also do very well.
What led you to Austin originally?
So I moved over like mid-pandemic, early pandemic, and there's a number of factors that Austin was kind of a draw. One, the startup ecosystem. Two, because I was moving back from being in Spain. I didn't want to move back to California. Like moving back, even though I wouldn't be necessarily staying with my parents, moving that close to my parents I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. And then I knew people here. So I'd never really been. I'd heard great things about the Austin city and both the ecosystem and the way of life here. And
Mm-hmm.
I came to check it out and can't say it was a great move, I think.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
cool.
Austin's an amazing city.
I agree.
Maybe a bit hot in the summer. But other than that, I think it's really, really good.
Yeah. I love the heat here.
Do you really?
Yeah. I don't know. It just gives me an excuse to get in like a body of water. So,
Wow. Even like on the worst, like 100+ days.
I love it. Like,
No, it's too humid and hot.
but
at
I've
the same
always lived
time.
in Texas, so I'm a little biased, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Have
I'm
you
used to it.
have you been to like California, like Southern
Mhm.
California?
Yeah.
What do you think of that weather?
I think it's beautiful. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe if I lived there, I would like it a lot more than this. So
I mean,
maybe I've just gotten used to my conditions.
the bodies of water are colder there. The
Yeah.
Pacific is not warm, at least not there. But
Right.
yeah, I do find Austin in the summertime hot and humid, and
Yeah.
maybe I'm not built that way yet.
Oh, you're not alone, everyone.
It
gets complained about a lot. So
yeah, I mean, it is better. I think I was working for a little bit in Thailand, and I just remember at one point it gets really hot and humid there, like really hot and humid. And I was supposed to be meeting some people, so I went back home and had a shower, got changed, stepped outside, and immediately started sweating because of the heat and the humidity. And I was like, this is pointless.
Yeah.
So Austin's not that bad. It's a lot better than
Right.
that. I've definitely acclimatized more to it here
Yeah.
over the last few years than I have other places. But
You've lived in a lot of different places, right? Like you've been in like you lived in Spain, California,
yeah, the UK.
the UK. Were you in Scotland at one point, or?
Yeah. I went to university in Scotland.
Okay.
And then I worked in Belgium for a while, and I've worked in Italy, and then spent some time in Bangkok working as well.
For like long periods of time, or like a few months, a few
Yeah, a
years?
few months.
Yeah,
a few months here and there.
Cool.
Yeah. And they're all different. They're all special in their own ways, both positive and negative.
Yeah.
But it's quite
enough time where you felt like a local for after a certain period, or?
Yeah. I mean,
Enough, maybe.
I've been asked this question, like how long, I guess, I don't know at what point you've moved somewhere.
Yeah.
Versus you're just like transitory.
Sure.
One of the definitions my friend came up with is, if I can send you mail there, you've moved there.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
But so in that case, yes. But then like my time in Belgium was like summers. I spent 3 summers there basically. Did I feel like a local? Kind of. Would the locals say I was a local? No. He's just here for like a few months a year basically. I'd probably define like becoming a local is when you return there, it feels like you're returning home.
Yeah.
You've got some form of set routine.
Right.
In which case, that's a little bit of a smaller number versus I've gotten and can get or could get mail to a lot of places. Then I wouldn't have defined myself as like a local.
Yeah.
Local takes a few a few years, I think, at least to become like classified as a local.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some pretty fun places, all different and yet all the same on some levels.
Is there anywhere that's on your list to either travel to or move to at some point in your life?
Yeah, there's a lot of places. There's a lot of places I haven't been and I feel like I should have done. I've yet to go to India. I've yet to go to
It's on my
Japan.
list too. Oh, Japan's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been to, yeah, there's still a large swath of the world I need to go and visit at some point. Just need to find the time now
Yeah.
and the money to a degree.
Right.
But you've been to Japan?
I was there in January of this year,
Oh,
and
amazing.
I know some people that go to Tokyo once a year, and I was always surprised why you would go back so frequently. And now that I've been, it's such a huge city.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, I totally get it. There's so much to do there. It's just so vast.
Yeah.
Like I already want to go back again. So yeah.
What about, are there places you want to go to?
India is also on my list. I mean, but yeah, I mean Australia, New Zealand,
Same. I was looking at a map recently and I haven't been that far yet.
yeah. China as well. I don't know. I've been on China TikTok for a while, and some of the buildings and like cityscapes, I'm just like, this is incredible. I would love to see this in my lifetimes.
Yeah. I went to China so many years ago now. And it was a really amazing experience. But I'm sure the country's changed so much since I was there.
Where in China did you go?
Started in Beijing and then traveled around. I was teaching English. It was between high school and university.
Okay.
So I was there for, I think it was 6 or 8 weeks teaching English. And so we'd travel around the different cities and would do homestays and that sort of thing. It was a kind of a part language exchange, part cultural exchange. So saw Shanghai and Beijing and then a bunch of smaller cities like rural China and Inner Mongolia as well.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
It was the first time I traveled to such a different culture. Because I'd done like very little traveling growing up. And then most of my traveling I've done at university or post-university.
Right.
But not when I was a
Same.
kid.
Yeah. Do you travel by yourself or do you travel with groups, with friends? I mean,
Both?
yeah.
Both.
What is traveling by yourself like then?
Uh,
I've never done it, so I'm just curious.
the hardest thing about traveling by yourself is going to a restaurant you want to eat in by yourself
Yeah.
and like sitting down and having a meal in front of everybody else. There's a place called Portofino in Italy, like the top of the Italian Riviera, I think.
Okay.
And I was there, and I remember going to this restaurant because it had such a great review, and they sat me in the middle of this huge outdoor seating area, and I was just surrounded by couples. Like every side, there was a couple. Everybody was in love.
They're all on a honeymoon.
Yeah. And then there's me alone sitting in the middle of all these people. No one cared. Like
Right.
I'm the only one who cared, but that's always been the hardest, is being like, oh, I want to go do this thing.
Yeah, table for one.
Yeah, exactly. But sometimes people like you meet people that way. A few times, like some of the servers have sat down and like on their break just been like, I'm going to join you while you
Oh, that's
eat,
cool.
which has been always interesting. And but normally I travel, like my favorite way to travel is to go somewhere with the intention of doing like an activity.
Yeah.
So I've done a lot of traveling where like half the trip is climbing, and then the other half of the trip will be like seeing the major city or laying on a beach or something like that. And I've always really liked that mixture of like activity and rest or culture, how I want to define it.
Yeah. Do you travel with climbing gear?
Yeah.
You do? You're on?
Yeah. And it can get very heavy at times.
I can imagine.
So yeah, I don't need that much normally when I go traveling. So I mean, I might not smell great towards the end, but that's why you try and do laundry midway through. But it doesn't really matter when you're climbing, because I think You're not really in popular places.
Right. Yeah.
So it also allows you to see a different part of the country normally.
Yeah.
Um, it was fun.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, traveling by yourself is an interesting thing. And I think it is valuable.
Yeah.
But you see a very different part of the world that way.
Right. I think it's always a great experience just to kind of like do anything on your own and like kind of just exist on your own and not necessarily like have to, I don't know, be around other people to find enjoyment in an
Yeah.
activity. So
Yeah. I actually find traveling with big groups the hardest
mm,
because everybody has a different expectation of what's going to happen.
yeah, I totally get that.
And then sometimes you spend more time like deciding what you're going to do than actually doing something.
Right. It's
So
hard to keep everyone happy. So
exactly. So yeah, I tend to travel like very small groups or by myself.
yeah,
Ideally with like a small, like one other person or two other people, and you keep it simple.
yeah.
But
That's awesome.
yeah, and then you can do more that way as well.
That's true. You can kind of just design your own schedule, and if you're not enjoying it, then you only have yourself to blame.
Yeah. Or like, seating 10 at a restaurant could be difficult. Seating 2 or 3 is easy
Yeah.
always. And it requires less planning. I think some of my favorite trips have involved very little planning,
Okay.
like a landing date and a takeoff date, and then everything else is done on the fly.
Wow. So you like some spontaneity?
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
very heavy spontaneity is like I did a really good trip. I was injured. God, this might be like 10 years ago now. I was injured, so I couldn't go climbing. And so booked flights in and out of Dubrovnik and rented a car. And that was it.
Wow.
And like landed in Dubrovnik, picked up the car, pulled out the guidebook, and we're just like, okay, we're gonna drive south. And like every day we would look at the guidebook at breakfast, pick a destination randomly, and then as we were driving there, try and find somewhere to stay, or like turn up at the place and find somewhere to stay. And I think in 2 weeks we did 2,500 miles or kilometers of driving, saw 5 countries, and it was just amazing.
Yeah.
But nothing was really planned. And so everything was like, what do the locals think we should do? So in Albania, drove to the very southern part of Albania, so you can see like where Corfu is in Greece. Only because people said, "Oh, it's really beautiful down there. You should go."
Yeah.
So put in a 4-hour or 5-hour drive. Got down there. It's like, oh my god, it is really beautiful down here.
Oh, that's so cool.
If you like it, you spend more than one day. If you don't like it, okay, you get in the car.
Yeah.
You say, okay, where are we going to go to now? And you point somewhere else and you just drive there and see what it's like.
Yeah. Even getting lost, I think, is its own adventure. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And back then, there wasn't as much information. So there wasn't as much like, I guess, TikToks about what you must see.
Yeah.
And that
Which has probably ruined some places.
Yeah, to a degree. But then it also takes the pressure off, right?
Yeah.
But back then, I don't know many people who'd been to Albania. So there's no pressure of like, oh, the top 10 things to do in Albania didn't exist. It was just.
You're not getting FOMO for like, this list in your head of like the things you got to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Did we go to some pretty bad places? Absolutely. There were some really bad decisions that were made, but that was part of the fun. Is like,
yeah.
You're never more than like a 16-hour period of time before you can rectify that, right? If you pull into a town that's not very nice, okay, you get dinner, you sleep, wake up the next day, have breakfast, move on to the next town.
Yeah. What's the worst trouble that spontaneity has gotten you into for traveling?
Oh, like staying in some really bad accommodation. When you don't book ahead and you just, the hope is to
what's
rock
available.
Up. Yeah, there's been some really dodgy places. One place had no windows.
Oh,
so it's like in an attic, and there's no windows, but there were windows, but there's no glass.
Oh, okay.
Or mosquito nets.
Yeah.
The door was like hanging on by a thread kind of, and it didn't lock. I'm like, okay, this is pretty bad. Like, this is pretty dire. And then I used to just travel with like a sleeping bag liner.
Okay.
It used to be like a duvet cover, and then you'd like coat it with mosquito repellent so that you wouldn't get bitten in certain places in like South America or Central America. And I remember putting that on top of the bed. We're like, we're not sleeping on the sheets. We're just going to sleep on this and hope for the best in the morning and move on.
Yeah.
And yeah, and there's things taking a long time, but there's not been anything that's been
Well, that's good.
been
You've had
terrible.
good luck then. So
Yeah, and then there's been mistakes that have gone really well. I was sailing in Croatia, I think it was Croatia, and missed the ferry off of one of the islands by
I've done that before.
30 minutes.
I did
right?
that in Italy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible because then like when's the next ferry? And they're like
It's like,
4 days time. You're like,
oh my gosh. I only had to wait like maybe 4 hours, but 4 days.
or yeah,
That's a lot.
it might have been a little bit less than 4, maybe like 3 days, but so
Still.
found an resort, like an all-inclusive resort for cheap, and it was just filled with it was like a I guess it was like a German retirement type resort, like everyone from other parts of Europe after they're like 60, apparently they do this traveling thing and they all went to this resort. So it was the youngest person there. And it was just so much fun. It was on a gorgeous beach there was a forest nearby. They had tons of food. So I spent 3 days eating and exploring the island, and that was a wonderful mistake.
Yeah.
The
Happy
time-
accidents.
Yeah. I mean, at the time I was very annoyed, but in hindsight, it was amazing.
Yeah.
I think also like traveling allows you to break out of this and to get more adaptable to things when you miss stuff
Right.
which is good.
Yeah. I've always seen myself as being pretty adaptable to situations, and so I think I could like just figure it out as I go if I was traveling by myself and
Yeah.
doing that. So
But even if you're traveling with other people, it's still about just being adaptable.
yeah.
What's the weirdest situation you've landed in?
Well, when I was going into Lebanon, I was basically detained at the airport for like maybe like 5 hours, like in the very early morning, just because for unknown reasons, something about my passport, and they eventually let me go. I don't know. It ended up being fine, but there was people waiting on me, so they were just all having to hang out at the airport
Wow.
while I was like in some back room, and they just kept scanning my passport and talking Arabic. So
And this was you entering or leaving?
entering, yeah.
But they let you in the end.
They let me in at the end, yeah.
Yeah. Those rooms are always really scary to sit in.
Yeah.
You're like, I've done nothing wrong. But actually, do they care?
I know, I'm like questioning, I'm like, what, did I do something wrong?
Yeah. Yeah. Do they know about that one thing? I don't know. I don't know.
But overall, good experience. They gave me like some Lebanese cookies and like cola, and
That's pretty
they
good.
told me just to sit tight.
Hang out here while we yeah. But customs is always a little bit intimidating.
Yeah. Somehow I get flagged almost every time to be like searched or have my luggage checked.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if I just have bad luck when it comes to going in and out of airports, but
There was definitely a period, like a 3 or 4 year period, where I would always get stopped.
really.
I just don't know why. And then I guess at some point, it's like coming back into the US. Then I guess at some point they were like, yeah, we've searched this guy so many times. Every time he's got nothing.
A little notice pops up, leave him alone now. So
Yeah, yeah. I remember once I came back from a trip and they're like, we're going to search your bags. And it's like, I don't know if you want to do that. Then I realized what that sounded like.
Sounds like a threat. Yeah.
Yeah, this guy's like, just staring at me, and he's like, no, I'm definitely going to search your bags now. I was like, no. I meant like, there's a lot of really dirty clothes in there. Like, I got rained on and muddy, and I just took my clothes off and I just put them into a plastic
mildewy.
bag. Yeah,
You don't want to smell it.
You don't want to smell it. I think he thought I was joking, and he opened up my bag, and then he saw the plastic bag there, and I was like, that's the bag you don't want to touch. And of course, he like rips it open, and then immediately I was like, oh, this is now embarrassing. But I did warn him. I was like, those clothes have been in there for a week.
Yeah,
wow. You want to touch that?
I was in Italy a few years ago and had a ton of dirty like I basically ran out of room in my luggage, and so I just went to like a something kind of like a UPS store and shipped back just a box of dirty clothes back to my address, just
That's amazing.
so I would not It felt so stupid doing it, but I was like, well, I'll get my dirty laundry in like a week or two. So
that is such a good idea, though. And then you can fill your bag up with wine, right?
yeah, exactly. That was nearly what I needed it for.
Yeah.
Random little tchotchkes and wines.
Yeah, you're like, well, I could take back a crate of wine or my dirty clothes. I think that was a great decision.
Yeah. Worked out in the end. So.
I've often thought about just mailing stuff home. I've never come that far. Normally because I get to the place and then they quote me a price and I'm just too stingy. I was like, oh no, we'll figure out a different way to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't cheap, but it was, when I looked at it, it was like less than if I bought another piece of luggage and tried to like add that bag on to fly it back. And plus I'd have to like keep carrying it. So I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, good decision.
To make this problem go away, this is great. So
yeah. And that used to be the fun thing about traveling is sometimes, well, when I used to travel and I still kind of do as cheaply as possible. When you do have a reserve and something goes wrong, you can always be like, oh, well, I now get to be this like affluent foreigner. I'm going to throw money at the problem to get out of this. Like, how do I get it?
Yeah.
It just come unuseful a few times. They're trying to get out of sticky situations.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been good. I recommend everyone go traveling. You're going to be uncomfortable.
Right.
You're not going to know what's happening. And that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
To a degree.
Yeah, I'm very okay with trying to put myself in uncomfortable situations because I always learn something from it. So
yeah, if nothing else, you learn something about yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, sometimes you're like, I'm going to be so smooth and confident in this situation, and it happens. You're like, no, I was a mess. Like, why did I keep saying my name 4 times? I don't know. He didn't even ask. He's like, I know who you are, and I was like, just have fun.
Yeah.
He's like, nothing's that serious, really.
Well, thanks so much for doing this with me today.
No, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, and I'm sure everyone will get a kick out of listening to this because, like I said, like you were the person that the most people told me, like, oh, you have to talk to Oliver. So
really, yeah. Well, hopefully I didn't disappoint, but I definitely had fun.
Great.
I definitely had fun.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, thanks for watching or listening to Curious Blend. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Thanks for watching.